There are 3 panels there. There's a light blue panel, and then you can type your question there. And again, as I said, it's going to come to us privately. So you're going to also see the handout section right there. We've uploaded our handouts for today. You can just double click on the handout to begin the download process. The handouts will be available here while we are in session. Prior to this webinar, you were sent an email at the email that you registered with containing the handouts. So these handouts are a PDF of the slides and then several DEA excellent resources. I'm giving you the exact title, so if you needed to Google these resources later, if you don't have a chance to download, you can also Google them. At DEA Fentanyl Drug Fact Sheet, or the Emoji Drug Code Decoded, How Teens Misuse Medicine. I will give you a heads up that that is a very long document. It's a worthwhile read, but it's about 52 pages. So you may not want to send it to the printer. You might want to save the link. And then most importantly, we've also given you the fake pill fact sheet. So feel free to dig into those resources a little bit more after the webinar. We've also provided you with a save the date graphic that you could use if you'd like to share our webinars on your social media pages or in newsletters. At the end, there's going to be a Q&A where you'll have a chance to ask Wendy your questions directly. We're recording this presentation today, and that will be sent as soon as we can get it populated and ready for you pretty quickly after the webinar. You're going to need to also check the email you used to register to receive the recording. There's going to be a short survey sent to you directly after the webinar. It only takes about 3 minutes. You all have been so generous to complete that survey in the past, and please know that we use your continued support and encouragement and constructive feedback every time we receive it, and we're so grateful for your words of encouragement and your participation in that survey. So please continue to do that for us. Now it's my distinct pleasure. Well, first, let me also say, if you are an attendee who has lost a loved one due to fentanyl, we want to extend our deepest sympathy to you from Operation Parent. We know that many families that are with us today have lost dear loved ones. And if you'd like to speak to someone in our office, just to have someone to talk to parent, please feel free just to shoot us a quick note at info@operationparent.org, and one of us will be happy to follow up with you. So today what we're digging into is facing fentanyl head on as a parent. I want to share with you that the roots of this presentation were born out of I saw a gap between what we hear and see on the news as fentanyl and how we actually break that down and talk to our teens about it in our own homes. And so the webinar was born just from that. What can we as parents learn, and how can we translate that into conversations with teens in our own home? And thankfully, Wendy Woolcock was willing to join us and help us with that. So I'm really honored to introduce you to her. Wendy is a special agent in charge of the Drug Enforcement Administration Special Operations Division. It's a multi-agency center supporting national security and public safety. She leads approximately 500 personnel from 35 partner agencies. Wendy also ran the DEA Office of Training, where she upheld the DEA's mission to develop, deliver, and advocate preeminent law enforcement and non-law enforcement training. Prior, she served as the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the Domestic Training Section. She utilized her strong leadership on the DEA Board of Professional Conduct and in the Miami and Dallas field divisions. She started her career serving on the Dallas Police Force. Wendy's had a long and successful career in the DEA as well as on the force. She knows exactly what's happening with fentanyl on the streets, and she's here today to help us be equipped to understand the big picture and address this with teens in our own homes. Thank you so much, Wendy, for your strong leadership and all you've done and your team is doing to get fentanyl off the streets.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle, and thank you everyone for giving me the opportunity to be here with you today to talk about how DEA faces fentanyl and also how I, as a parent, face fentanyl. I'd like to start by saying, being a parent is very similar in many ways to serving as a law enforcement officer. And the reason I say this is all of you are very courageous and honorable servants to your children and your families and your community. So if you're paralleling the two, being a law enforcement officer, you service your community to try to keep it safe for the kids and those around. And also as a parent, you have this exact same role and responsibility. We are all here to keep our communities safe, to serve and protect those that we love. The second thing that I think is very similar between being a law enforcement officer and a parent, and this especially goes out to our grandparents, is grit. Being a law enforcement officer and a member of the law enforcement community means that we make sacrifices and many times have obstacles and challenges in our way. However, we persevere and push through for the greater good to service the community. And I think all of you that are on this call today have shown great grit as parents. You have encountered obstacles. You sometimes encounter frustration, disappointment, fear, funding, resources, all of those things that are challenging obstacles that parents have. But you all have grit. And so there is, when people say, well, how do you do both, Wendy? It's actually very simple in the sense that it's very similar. So thank you all for joining and for your continuation of service and grit to your kids. It's obviously part of your core values. So why I joined you here today is the fentanyl problem. And I think all of you probably understand that this is a problem that is greater than all of us. It is not just a law enforcement problem. It is not just a caregiver problem. This is a fentanyl crisis that is impacting every single one of us that are on the call today. So what I hope to do today is to unite all of us, to bring together the law enforcement perspective with the caretaker prevention perspective. And I hope that you walk away as I do and say, it's not okay to poison our kids. It absolutely, under no circumstance, is okay to poison our kids and cause overdose deaths. So what is DEA doing about it, and how can we work together? I think many of you are aware that DEA has an enforcement arm, and the men and women of the DEA work very long hours and use every resource available to them to attack the cartels and to hold them accountable and bring them to justice. You may not be aware that DEA also has a diversion side, and the diversion investigators divert pharmaceutical drugs and focus on the regulation of these drugs into our communities. They monitor and regulate doctors' offices and physicians and hold them accountable for their actions. But those two actions alone are not enough. And that's why with the leadership of DEA Administrator, we initiated One Pill Can Kill campaign to bring about education and awareness for the fentanyl crisis. Michelle, I think you wanted to mention something about a previous webinar with diversion.
Yeah, thank you. We wanted to let the audience know there is a webinar up on prescription opioid abuse that we did quite a bit ago with Martin Red in our local DEA DEA office. And so we just wanted folks to know from the diversion perspective, there is another full webinar up on our library that we hope you would go to and check out at a later time.
Great. So with today's presentation, I'm going to give you, Michelle and I are going to give you a list of resources. We're going to give you some talking points. We're going to try to educate you and support you and armor you with the information you need to shield your kids from deadly fentanyl. So let's talk a little bit about fentanyl. As many of you may know, merely 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be a lethal dose. I would suggest, as the picture depicts, you put a penny on the table and you show your kids what little amount of fentanyl could cause a death. And unfortunately, as recent as December of 2022, what used to be 4 out of 10 pills could be a lethal dose is now 6 out of 10 pills can contain a lethal dose of fentanyl. Last year alone, our community lost over 108,000 individuals to fentanyl. This is a trafficker-driven addiction, and the cartels are putting more and more lethal doses of fentanyl in every single dosage unit. Because fentanyl is an opioid, the tolerance is building up. Because cartels are a drug business and they want to make money, they take pride in producing a more lethal dose of fentanyl. So the odds are not very good. As we were speaking earlier, 6 out of 10 is a lethal dose. What else would you do with that type of odds? If you knew, if you ate 6 out of 10 French fries, that 6 of those French fries could kill you, would you continue to eat French fries? I don't think so. So this is the message that we need to give our kids. 6 out of 10 pills can contain a lethal dose. Do not put a pill in your mouth. It could kill you.
This was the one thing that just took my breath away as I started to look at the issue more closely. We were just at 4 out of 10 pills and 19, almost, I think part of 20, very recently. And it's just jumped up. So the odds have jumped up, and they're not going to go down anytime soon. So we have to be very vigilant with our teens and not delay the conversation any longer, in my perspective. And as a parent, and I'm sure I've heard many other parents think this way too, it puts a lot of pressure on that conversation to think like your teen making one mistake is lethal. It's very scary.
Absolutely. And I think what's even scarier is we all know that fentanyl fake pills look just like legitimate prescription pills. So fentanyl can come in various forms. The most common fentanyl that we see on the streets right now are fake fentanyl pills that are disguised to look like legitimate prescription pills. They are not legitimate prescription pills. If you look at the picture in front of you, it would take a trained physician or prevention person to be able to tell the difference between an authentic M30 tablet and a fake M30 tablet. The cartels have pill presses within Mexico where they are pumping out thousands upon thousands of pills. They are not authentic pills, and you should only take a prescription pill that has your name on it, that is prescribed to you by a medical physician or a medical doctor. Some of the other things, do not take a pill that comes from a friend's prescription bottle. We all know that you can commingle prescriptions within one single pill bottle, and you could mistakenly or unwittingly get a pill that is poisonous and could be lethal in nature. The other thing that we see with fentanyl pills is the cartels are starting to make the pills in rainbow colors. I'm sure many of you have heard that. We don't have a picture of it here today, but if you Google rainbow fentanyl pills, you will be able to pull up a picture of fentanyl pills that look just like the ones you see in front of you, only in a variety of colors. I have showed this picture to my children on multiple occasions without telling them what it is, and asked them what they think it looks like, and unanimously and sadly, the answer is candy. So why do
Yes.
you,
As
I'm
you
sorry,
mentioned,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, all prescription pills legitimately are marked with a letter and a number. So if you came across a pill at any point, you could figure out what prescription type of pill it's supposed to be. So parents, just know that if you're just now starting to dive into the issue. But as Wendy said, like, they're pill pressed with those exact logos or markings on them, so you can't tell any difference. And so we provided the fake pill fact sheet handout so that you could see just how many types of fake pills are out there, the wide variety, and how much they look identical, authentic.
Yeah, and just to follow up, when we're talking about the why is this happening? The return on investment for cartels is extremely high and for drug traffickers on these pills. It's inexpensive. The pills are easy to conceal. They are readily available, and there's less stigma than possibly shooting up heroin or taking some other form of illicit drug. These are teeny, teeny, tiny pills that are very easy to take, very easy to conceal, and easy to get to. So let's talk about some of the ways that kids are accessing pills. We all know that our children spend a little more time on their phones and social media platforms. I'm sorry, Michelle.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. So we all know that our kids are spending more time on their phones and on social media platforms. And what we have learned through our investigations is many of the pills are being touted and sold and advertised over various social media applications. They are also being paid for over various payment platforms, e-commerce platforms, and all of this is done within seconds. So it's easily accessible. Anyone with a smartphone can find a pill, purchase a pill, and have it delivered very discreetly on the open and clear web. This is not, your child is not going into a dark Tor room to gain access to this. This is something that is readily available and easy to find on the clear web.
So Wendy, this is just a mass operation. It sounds like even like drug dealers could be tracking several teens at once via social media. We know based on the various types of social media, they could figure out their locations very quickly. And there could be a very quick payment transaction that happens. And so one thought we had from the proactive parenting side, an action that we could take is keep an eye on the payment transactions that are happening on your child's phone would be one thing to keep a look at. And also, of course, looking at their social media activity, being on the same platforms that they're on, and kind of keeping an eye on social media
Yeah, I think those
platforms and
are
things like that.
Yeah, I think those are great pieces of advice. And I think it's also important, and this is part of today's conversation, is to give you some emojis and let you know that you need to learn the language that your kids speak, and to pay attention to, their little text or their snaps that go back and forth. What are they using to communicate, and how are they communicating? And what we have seen is many kids and traffickers are communicating in what they think is a coded language using emojis. And we have a couple of examples here, specifically a child or anyone may ask for high potency fentanyl, and you'll see a rocket instead of saying, hey, can I get some high potency fentanyl? It may be, you may just see the rocket. Or for example, plug, like meaning I'm your source of supply, I can hook you up, I can connect you to someone who is selling drugs. Or we've also seen Roxy board shorts. Board shorts are shorts that kids may wear when they go to the beach. We've seen on e-commerce platforms individuals selling Roxy board shorts, but if you pay attention, so if you're looking over your kid's shoulder in the car and you see them looking at Roxy board shorts, if you read deeper, you may see that the advertisement is for size M30 only. That may seem like a waist size to you and that you're only allowed to order blue ones, but what that really translates to is blue M30 oxy pills. So this is some of the conversation and through emojis that we have witnessed. And I believe on the next slide, we've got a couple more examples of that. This has
That's
become
right.
so prevalent. Yeah, this has become so prevalent that some of the prosecutors are even using emojis in their affidavits as known drug language to sell and distribute.
There are so many
So
different emojis too. That handout, the separate handout that we provided in addition to this slide, shows the various different types of drugs and emojis for those. So emojis for marijuana, meth, heroin, and cocaine are all additional things that parents can take a look at on the other handout. We were also thinking about, in addition to watching social media things, take a look at the influencers and music artists that your teens are following. I know it's a bit different than the emoji talk, but connected through social media and things like that, and see what kind of messages or even emojis they might be using on their social media accounts.
yeah, that's great advice, and it's okay to ask, right? If you see something and you don't know what it is, like if you saw the box, it's okay to say, hey, what is that? Like, what does that mean? And make them come up with an explanation. Um, I think we'd all be surprised that our kids want to know that we care and want to know that we're paying attention to what they're doing.
Yeah, and then the big picture for a
So
parent is
drug
anyone with a
traffickers are
smartphone. Sorry, there's a little bit of delay. I was just mentioning that anyone with a smartphone can be targeted, located, make an easy payment in transactions, and it can all be coded with emojis. It's just it's a lot for parents to kind of take in and keep up with, but some good tips to keep your eyes open. And then the other thing is, parents are often paying for the phones, so it's and okay and appropriate to double check on all these things to keep them safe. I'm not saying that that's an easy transaction. Teens keep those phones close to their hip and they're not always you know down with all the checking, but as we know, like, it's their life depends on it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And uh, another thing that we've come across is the traffickers are getting more and more bold. And not only, although fake fentanyl pills are the number one way that we see fentanyl distributed and are responsible for the poisoning of our children. We also know that the traffickers are lacing cocaine, lacing heroin, and possibly even marijuana and vaping products. This is a discreet and maybe a more acceptable way. Uh, but the bottom line is, don't put something in your mouth or your body that you don't know where it came from, because it very well could contain a lethal dose of fentanyl and it could be your last. Having said that, if you do, immediately call 911 and immediately seek help from a parent or a police officer or a medical professional.
That's awesome. That's important advice. So when we're looking at, into how just widespread and massive, you're saying it could be in pills, it could be in marijuana, it could be vapes. But Wendy, how has this volume of pills just become so massive? Like you've started to touch on this, but um, tell us more.
Yeah, so I think this would be an interesting conversation to have with your kids who get disgusted by pretty much everything that you say to them. But so I think that they would be completely disgusted to know that fake pills are being produced, clandestinely produced in labs in Mexico. Guess what? There is no control over anything in these labs, right? There is no EPA, there is no CDC, there is no FDA, there are no controls. The cartels have massive labs within Mexico. They are surrounded by rodents, poison, feces, and all other kinds of disgusting contaminants. They are mass producing pills that will cause mass poisonings in the United States. So, I think this would be valuable to share with your kids. Pictures, this is not a laboratory within the United States that is regulated, that is clean, that has ideal situations. This is a disgusting area within the jungle with all kinds of other contaminants that's being pushed and flooded into the United States and then distributed on the streets to our children, all for profit, all for greed, and all for power. So, as I mentioned earlier, the DEA and other law enforcement officials and partners and state local people that we are working with are trying very hard to hold those people accountable. But this is a problem bigger than law enforcement. And that's why I applaud all of you for being on here, for paying attention and educating and making yourself aware so that you can help us get the word out that this is a mass production and it will cause mass poisonings if we don't act.
So many of our kids are dying from fentanyl, and we were wanting to honor Wyatt. His story is available on our website as well as the DEA, the full story. Julie Hoffman's is his mom, and she is fighting against fentanyl with more strength than a mom should ever have to, Wendy. She represents the exact loss that's happened to so many families that are with us on the call today. And I've had the opportunity to get to know Julie. And one of the things that she said is that Wyatt was not an addict. He just took the chance with one pill, one Xanax. His friend also had a Xanax from the same batch and did not die. Wyatt's fentanyl level was 2.3. I'm educating others out of love for my son. Wyatt was an organ donor in his death, so he did save lives. But what she really wants people to know more about is fentanyl and to save others' lives. Julie is really wanting teens to know the same thing you've told us. Don't take any pills, don't take any chances, and don't ever encourage a friend to do so. You don't want to die. You don't want to be the reason someone else dies, or be there to watch a friend die and experience that survivor's guilt, terrible survivor's guilt that might come along with that. So I've watched and listened to so many stories. We talked with two moms from coalitions around the country just yesterday, and the message is we had no idea exactly what fentanyl was until we had to after a loss. And so that's the whole point of gathering people today, to just know more about exactly what fentanyl is and how massive the problem is. The picture there with Forever 21 of it, the great picture of Wyatt, is up on the fentanyl wall at the DEA. Can you tell us a little bit more about that wall and just the number of lives that are being lost to fentanyl?
Yeah, so the DEA located, if you don't know, the DEA headquarters is located in Arlington, Virginia. And under the current administration and DEA Administrator Milgram, the Faces of Fentanyl was initiated and started. And it's located within DEA headquarters in Arlington, Virginia. It's to commemorate the lives lost, those people that were poisoned and suffered or suffered overdose death as a result of fentanyl. It is it's there to remind the DEA employees daily on why we do the job that we do, how important it is, not just to do the enforcement side, but also the public awareness and education. It's also there to remind the families that their loved one's life was not lost in vain, and that we will continue to work forward and push forward to try to make our community a safer place. So if you have a loved one that you have lost and you would like to commemorate their life, you can go to fentanyl awareness at dea.gov and send the person's name, age, and a photo, and that person will be placed within the halls of the DEA headquarters.
Thank you, Wendy. This is heart-wrenching and hard to look at that wall, but it does remind us why we are fighting so hard against fentanyl and why the DEA won't stop. For me, it's also, the next slide shows where we start, where we are, the heart wrench and the hope meet together in my mind. So there's a lot of parent organizations that are doing amazing things to also help get more information and education out about fentanyl. One of them that we've been introduced to is the Song for Charlie. Ed and Mary Tiernan, their son Charlie, is being honored as they push out school toolkits, some facts about fentanyl resources, and the No Random Pill Pledge. They've also got a really excellent part of their resources where you can get information about reporting dealers on social media across every platform, and also how you can submit a tip to the DEA if you encounter a situation where someone has offered drugs over social media. Facing Fentanyl Now is also some great information up on that website, I thought, where parents teaching us what are the signs of where they're atypical sometimes, the symptoms of fentanyl poisoning. So teaching teens to look for if something were to happen with one of their friends or someone they're around. Immediate blue or gray lips, body stiffening, seizure-like activity, foaming at the mouth, confusion before becoming unresponsive. Death by fentanyl is a form of suffocation. It shuts down your neuro and respiratory system, and you can die in minutes or even seconds. The Voices for Awareness in Colorado are honoring a daughter who was also a mother herself. She died of fentanyl poisoning after she took just half of what she thought was an ordinary painkiller. One of the things they're teaching us that illicit fentanyl is highly addictive and can cause sudden death. Fentanyl is killing Americans every 5 minutes. Americans of all socioeconomic groups and ages are dying from first-time use. We use and refer to the Partnership to End Addiction very often. Their resources and website are packed full of information. In our next webinar, we're going to dive deep with SAMHSA and Captain Michael King into community resources against opioid addiction. So I hope you'll consider coming back and continuing this conversation with us from the community perspective. The Blue Plaid Society is out of Florida. They're also doing great things. There's so many parent organizations that are doing really great work to get people better informed about fentanyl and just fight really strongly against it.
Yeah, so Michelle, I think that's a great point. Part of Operation Parent is to unite people for a common cause, and it's great to know that there are so many different organizations out there willing to help all of those people that need it, including law enforcement. So one of the things that I talk to my kids a lot about that I think is becoming more and more available. It varies obviously by state, and I know that you have some resources to talk about that where maybe people can get a hold of naloxone, the opioid reversal drug, is just this, right? We all make mistakes, but I think it's important to point out to our kids that it doesn't have to be their last mistake, and that this opioid reversal drugs are available and can help mitigate the situation. So I often tell my kids, and they all know it. In my purse, I have my gun, my badge, and the opioid reversal drug. So it's all there to protect them, and it's all there to protect the community and help make people safe. And if for some reason they make a mistake, or one of their friends makes a mistake, or they recognize the signs that you pointed out, the unconsciousness, the small pupils, the shallow breathing, the faint heartbeat, the purple lips, the vomiting, to immediately, without hesitation, call 911, seek medical attention, ask around, does anyone have naloxone? Does anyone, it won't hurt you to administer naloxone. Many people carry it now. Police officers carry it. Every new DEA agent going through the academy is trained on the administration of naloxone. So the important point is we can help. And if a mistake is made, our kids need to know and have the confidence to ask for help. And if you are available to get naloxone through the state that you live in, I would highly suggest that you carry it, that you keep it readily available, rather to in your house or your
Absolutely.
purse or your school.
I couldn't agree with
But
you more.
every office business should have it.
I could not agree with you more. As a concerned citizen, I will now always carry the opioid reversal drug because I know if someone's gotten a hold of fentanyl, they they were not intending to die. So anything that we could do to help, that's a personal decision for me to always carry it from this point forward. The other thing to just be mindful of is that the fentanyl is going to stay in the system for a long time. So even if let's say someone administered it, you still have to get EMS on site because the drug is going to wear off before the fentanyl does. And so they need this to stay alive, but they also need the medical attention to come right behind, which is exactly what you were saying, just to make sure that teens, if they find themselves in a sticky situation, know that. I also just wanted to share that Zimhigh is a product on the market that is more like an EpiPen, and it goes straight into the bloodstream. So that's an excellent product for you to check out and research a little bit more. If you're curious about, okay, exactly how do I get it? So I know that you can check with your doctor, your pharmacist, harm-free reduction groups in the area, your drug-free coalitions as well would know. In some states, there's a quick training that you do, and then you're able to carry that and be of assistance should someone get in trouble.
So one of the things that Michelle and I have talked quite a bit about is how do you talk to your teens, and how do you communicate the fentanyl threat without scaring them, right? And how do you build that confidence in them to that should a mistake be made, for them to come talk to you? And in talking to other parents and other law enforcement officers, I have found that, and this is not my line, I wish it was because I thought it was fantastic, that it's better to have 60 1-minute conversations than one 60-minute conversation. And when you really think about that, getting your child to sit down and talk to you for a dedicated time frame, especially about a sensitive topic, one that has peer pressure, one that has social stigma attached, one that um, it's just difficult to talk about. Drugs are difficult to talk about with your teens. It makes them uncomfortable. So don't trap them for 60 minutes and think you're going to come across to them, right? So many short, strong talks are good. A lot of times I'll have these conversations in the car where maybe there's not visual eye contact and it's just a passing moment, but don't miss that opportunity to have them. Passing a notebook back and forth, or even a text message like, hey, I know you're going out tonight. Don't put anything in your mouth that you don't know what it is, right? Family dinner time, right? That's a great time to say, hey, what's going on at school? What are you guys learning about? Hey, have you ever heard of fentanyl? You know, kind of squeezing that conversation in. I um, I just had the conversation last night with one of my kids because they're off school today, and this particular child was in bed, getting ready for bed, you know, covered with pillows and stuffed animals and all of those things. And I said, hey, I won't be home tomorrow. I have to go to work. I am going to be involved. You know, I have a presentation to give and for work. And I said, what do you think it's about? And this child said, drugs. And I said, very good, and threw a pillow. And then I said, well, what drug? And the child said, fentanyl. And I said, very good. And I threw another pillow, right? And then I said, well, what does fentanyl do? And the child said, they kind of squinted their eyes because this is my youngest, and said, hurts you? And I said, yep, and could possibly
Perfect.
kill you, and threw another pillow. And I said, and what happens? And I said, what happens if you accidentally get a hold of fentanyl, or somebody does? And they're like, that thing in your purse, I'm supposed to call you. And I'm like, you got it. And then I just threw like, 3 or 4 pillows. And that was the end of the conversation. It was literally 30 seconds. It was diverted with, pillow throwing right before bed. But my point is, don't miss the opportunity. It doesn't have to be serious. It probably shouldn't be serious. It's a serious topic, but it does not have to be a serious situation, right? Just have the conversation. Use your village, right? We are all parents. We all know that we try to be everything to everyone all the time, but the saying goes, it takes a village. Use your village. It does not have to be you. If you're not comfortable, or your child doesn't listen to you, use a sibling, an older sibling. Use a coach. Use a spiritual leader. Use an organization like Operation Parent. Um, but don't put on your blinders. Don't put on your earmuffs and pretend like it's not happening, because it is happening. And there were 108,000 people last year that died because of it. So this is our opportunity. Don't miss the opportunity. Make yourself a little uncomfortable, and get in there and get it done. Um, anyway,
So
Michelle.
good. I use the webinar example too, Wendy. Um, One of my teens was getting ready to head out the door for school, and I said, have a great day. I love you. And hey, we've got a big webinar today. Guess how many people are coming? And she like shrugged her shoulders, and I'm like, a bunch. And I'm like, we have a big crowd of folks coming to talk about fentanyl. And she said, that's good, Mom, because I know that's a big problem. And I'm like, yeah, it is a big problem. And I'm thankful that we're talking about it and getting good information out. And, um, I want to make sure that you know more about it. So we'll talk later this evening. So I think sometimes, and it'll be quick, I promise. And so she just sort of said, okay, and then, went out the door. But I think sometimes sort of prepping them lightly so that you can just go back in for the short talk and they know, okay, that's where that came from. It didn't just come out of the blue because mom thinks, I'm hanging around bad kids or I'm in trouble, or no, it's just the world out there. There's a lot going on right now that I want you to be smart about for yourself, and to also um, be ready to get your friends back if you need to.
Right. And I think it's also important to arm our kids with answers, right? We forget some of them have only been alive for 12, 13 years. They may not know what to say or how to say it, but they are constantly being influenced by negative people. And it's our job to influence them with positive role models, with positive people in the community that are giving them guidance and giving them an outlet to say simply, no thanks. Say no thanks and walk away. It seems so simple, but if you're not saying it to them, someone else is saying, here, take this, take this. So arm them with answers. Think of what you would say to them and give them a response that they're comfortable with. And sometimes that's just simply no thanks, turn around and walk away. So I used this example before, and my math was probably a little shady, but in full disclosure, I was doing pre-algebra with my son, um, and I squeezed in a fentanyl problem. So after, when we talked at the beginning about service and grit, and sometimes we get frustrated as parents and trying to relate to our kids. This one came up after many hours of pre-algebra and algebra one night. And what I did was, and this is salt, not fentanyl. I obviously never put fentanyl in your hands, but I turned his pre-algebra assignment into a fentanyl discussion point. And what I did was I had him hold out his hand and I poured salt in his hand. And I said, okay, now let's just say, I go, how many pieces of salt in your hand? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, all right, for the sake of argument, it's 21. And I said, all right, now if every 3 granules of salt contained a lethal dose, how many people could potentially die or could you kill with fentanyl in your hand? And he's like, and eventually he said 7, right? He said 7, so I feel good about that. But yeah, so he said 7. But again, hopefully that sticks with him for many reasons. One, for the algebra, but also more importantly, to realize that that's all it takes, right? And I think there are different ways to learn. You have to honor your child's learning style and their interest. Maybe you don't communicate orally together, so maybe a text message is best. Maybe a visual is best. Maybe, as we said, maybe having a coach or a peer is best. But bottom line, you have to do something. You have to say something, because again, if you're not, someone else is. I'll give you another example. I had another child who was doing a history project, and this is my oldest, and it was talking about different cultures and different groups. And I said, oh, can I review your slide presentation? So I'm glancing through it very quickly, and I see that he has written part of the community ethos is no drugs. So I was reading through it and I'm kind of talking out loud to myself, and he's standing there and I'm like, oh, no drugs. And I keep going. I just look at him and kind of smile, and we fist bump, and that was it. That was the whole conversation. Nothing else was said about it at all. But he knew what I knew, that, okay, no drugs. That's good. I'm glad you put that in there. So, and then the other thing I do, kind of like you did with your daughter, before a school dance, I pull up a stock photo that you can search, unfortunately, on the internet, and find pictures of rainbow fentanyl. So I do this frequently, where I'll pull up a picture of fentanyl, and as they're walking out the door, whether it's a basketball game, a school dance, whatever. I'll be like, hey, what's this? And they'll be like, I don't know, candy. I'm like, wrong, fentanyl. Don't put it in your mouth. And that's it. I mean, that's the conversation. But maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But you have to say something. You have to try. And I would just say, don't miss an opportunity. You'd be surprised how many doors open throughout the day where you can insert that 1 minute conversation, and hopefully it sticks and is meaningful.
I think it works so much better than a long drawn out to do. You're so creative about how you sneak it in there too, and it sounds like you do it a little differently for each of your children. I mean, we know this too. Like as soon as you get something down for one of your kids, you need to do it completely the opposite for the other. So it's good to have a lot of ideas and tricks up your sleeve about how to go in for this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is no wrong way to do it.
There's no wrong way to do it. The main thing is to just start to say something. Make sure that they feel you're concerned for their safety overall. You're not just trying to, um, bicker at them or be annoying. You're literally concerned for their safety and their future. We covered the opioid reversal drug, for parents just to know more about that drug and just be in the know. The main thing we're hoping with leaving tonight, the main part of the homework is don't delay the conversation if you haven't had it. I know I have some work to do to sneak it in more often, so I've got plans for that. Make sure that you know phone passcodes and that you have a strategy in place to check their phones often and help them practice some refusal skills. So we thought this might be a good screen to take a screenshot of if you do have your phone handy and you're on a laptop. I know some of you, or a computer. I know some of you may also be listening in on your phones and might not be able to do that at this point, but you've got it on the handout for later. The other thing we wanted to talk about is what parents could do to collaborate with schools. So these are just some of our ideas, knowing that all parents are busy with a lot of things, but maybe trying to do one of these easily. So just know what your school drug policy is, and bring up a quick conversation about that at your house to show your teen that you're in the know and that you're paying attention. That might also open the door to see if they're getting offered anything at school, or what might be prevalent on their campus, if anything. And then pay attention to what is going out in terms of drug education. If there's a talk about mental health or suicide or drugs, that you get alerted to in the parent newsletter, to use that opportunity to ask some questions about how that talk might have gone during school that day, and just to kind of zoom in on what your teen might have retained from that conversation, or what stuck out to them, and see if you can get them talking about it, but short and quick. And then collaborating with the drug-free coalition in your area. I know there's great opportunities. Some of the coalitions have youth boards that your teen could be involved and be a leader on, and be active in the school promoting a drug-free environment. When you can, participate in school activities, and I mean as your time allows. So even if it's conference time and you can't meet with all the teachers, meeting with one teacher and having that caring adult be more in tune with what's going on with your teen, and having that relationship with the teacher is a powerful thing. From the operation parent side, we thought what you could do is share our webinar announcements with your school, which you have the save the date flyer to help with that if you're interested. Show counselors our handbooks. So we have an elementary and a middle and high prevention handbook that you might want to show to your school counselor. And also share our social media posts. Be involved in our vibrant community there and share our social media post about prevention. So those are some ways that you could take a leadership role in getting a bit more prevention in your school community. There's a lot of amazing things going on in schools too. So just paying attention as those things are popping up and digging in a little bit. We left this slide in as another great screenshot to just remember some of Wendy's main points.
Yeah, that's great, Michelle. And yeah, focusing in on one pill can kill and the public awareness. It's not just a marketing tagline. If you pay attention now, you'll probably see this banner in your kids' schools. I saw one the other day posted outside of a gymnasium. This is all about just informing and educating your kids. Again, one pill can kill. We've done some enforcement actions related to it and seized millions upon millions of pills along with illicit finance and stuff. But today that we're focusing in on the public awareness and education piece and getting this out to your kids and let them know that one pill can kill and that they should simply say no thanks and arm themselves and you with information. You can go to dea.gov/onepill to learn more about the One Pill Can Kill efforts.
So resources available with National Fentanyl Awareness Days. The May 9th event is a more virtual presence. So if you wanted some graphics to use in your campaign against fentanyl, there's going to be a really strong push around that day to get better information and facts out in front of people. So you can follow the National Fentanyl Awareness Day and look for the May 9th date. And then also facing fentanyl on August the 21st in 23 again, connected with the DEA. It's just another opportunity to just get more familiar with the facts and get the word out. I really encourage you to think about participating in Take Back Day. I know just here a minute from our office, we have a police station that participates in the day every year. And being active in that by taking your own prescription pills, encouraging your family, grandparents, and others to do so. It's a great way to get just a lot of pounds of prescription pills off the street. You can use that locator and find exactly where the locations are going to be in your community on April the 22nd and October the 28th. So I ask that you just support the DEA and law enforcement in making sure that your community is aware of that opportunity.
So another way that DEA promotes living a drug-free life is through, many of you have probably heard about the Red Ribbon Campaign. And this started after the unfortunate torture and capture of DEA Special Agent Enrique Camarena in the 1980s. His family and friends joined hands, and out of dedication, out of honoring his dedication to live a drug-free life and to investigate and hold those accountable committing drug crimes, they came up with the red ribbon. They started wearing red ribbons. So I'm sure many of your kids have participated in Red Ribbon Week. It's every October on an annual basis. There is a pledge that both parents and kids can take to live a drug-free life. And I would encourage you to talk to your kids about it, and also, again, to look at dea.gov on Enrique Camarena and read more about the sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice that he made, and what Red Ribbon stands for.
There's a couple of great resources, lots of great resources through all of these offerings, but in Get Smart About Drugs, there's an elementary video lesson on stimulants that's excellent. So if you're working with the elementary population, you might check that out. As well as there was a good piece up there to educate social media users on the dangers of fentanyl and what happens on that particular platform.
Right, and in particular, one of the resources that you showed on the screen was Operation Prevention. It's a free educational program dedicated to preventing substance misuse in schools, workplaces, and communities. And if you look closely and click on the parent toolkit, this will give you as parents, caregivers, some different resources and modules to learn how to talk to your kids about opioids, what opioids do to your body, and it's available in both English and Spanish. So I would encourage you all to look at the Operation Prevention site and go through some of these modules either with your kids or by yourself to help educate them.
There's so many free publications for parents and educators to utilize. The star is on the bottom row there is the handout that we provided, How Teens Misuse Medicine, that pamphlet. That's excellent. That's the one I was telling you all. It's a long one, but it's well worth the read. So make sure that you put that handout at the top of your stack. So definitely screenshot this. This is hopefully the main message that
Yeah, so
we.
just kind of to recap.
Go ahead, Wendy. There's a little bit of a delay. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. We're just both so excited about this message. We want to make sure we get it across, right?
That's right.
So it's just this just reiterates some of the key points for today. Anything you put in your mouth or arm could be a lethal dose of fentanyl. Again, the odds 6 out of 10 is not, those are not good odds. And we need to make sure that our kids know that we know of it. And if you have to apply it to something as simple as French fries, 6 out of 10 French fries could kill you, then apply it so that it sticks in their head. Having said that, we are here to serve and to keep our community safe. And we are compassionate. We are parents. And if a mistake is made, our kids need to know that to call 911 and to call us because we are here to help. There is not a single time in our life that we do not stand by our kids, regardless of the mistakes that they make. And they need to know that we are here for them. And then lastly, just to reemphasize, only take pills that are from a licensed physician or a pharmacist with your name on it. Not your friend's pills, not your parents' pills, your name prescribed for you for a particular reason.
So we have some big thank yous. That obviously Wendy, who did an amazing job with this presentation and stuck with us throughout the preparation and the technical challenges. The one we had today is that we couldn't get our cameras up, so we apologize for that. It wasn't for a lack of effort. But hopefully you've enjoyed the conversation and didn't miss our faces too much up on the screen. But thank you, Wendy, for all of your hard work on this presentation. We want to give a big thank you out to the community outreach and prevention support in the DEA area that helped us pull the content together. Amanda and Nikki back at Operation Parent have worked on this presentation extensively, so we wanted to also thank them. And Julie Hoffman's contributed quite a bit to the content and also shared Wyatt's story with us and allowed us to share that out with you all today to honor him. So at this point, we're going to go into questions. So it's a great point for you to start putting your questions in the queue. I'm going to mention just a couple of things about Operation Parent while we load up the questions. So I want to let you know we have amazing prevention handbooks available. We have foster parents and grandparents all over the country utilizing these to brush up on topics all across the culture. So We have a newly updated elementary edition, what's featured here. There's actually some talking points about fentanyl in the elementary and the updated elementary edition. We're hearing from this presentation, and it's sinking in, that we need to start talking with kids earlier. It's earlier than what you think. So this elementary handbook could definitely help with that. You can order that online at operationparent.org/shop. You could use the QR code here. The elementary edition is at $9.99, and our middle and high edition is at $14.99. It's an awesome investment for a really strong prevention tool that you can use in your own home, or you could encourage your schools to utilize it. We have a very special offer for organizations that might be with us today, 15% off 100 or more handbooks. You just go to that operationparent.org/shop and use the code NEWYEAR15. That offer will close on January the 27th, 2023. We'd certainly be happy to answer any questions or thoughts that you have about the handbook. We know that hope is at the core of our mission, and our handbooks have saved lives by empowering parents with pertinent information to support struggling teens. Our team is committed to reaching more parents, which is why we offer these free webinars, and we also offer free shipping on all orders. So this is a powerful tool to add to your prevention strategy. I hope you'll go and take a look. Just a reminder, we've got 2 webinars live up on the website. If you'll take a minute and register for those, that would be great. Opioid prevention, community strategies, and also behavior modification with Dr. Crystal Coyer. And please think about joining us on our vibrant social media communities. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, as well as YouTube. And all of those handles are at Operation Parent, at Operation Parent. So now Nikki is going to help us with question, or let us hear what questions might be in the queue.
All right. Hey, everybody. This is Nikki. I wanted to start with, we had a ton of questions, so thank you so much. But we also had a lot of people sharing with us their stories. And so I didn't want to pass that by. Just thank you so much for sharing, and just know we are thinking about you guys, and you guys are heroes for having lost, but still caring about prevention and getting the message out there. So thank you. There was a question that quite a few people asked, so I'm going to start with that to make sure we get to it. A lot of people were wondering, what is the motivation to making a lethal dose of fentanyl, saying that aren't dealers killing off their buyers? And you know, what is the motivation behind that?
Yeah, so I'll answer that the best that I can. And I've been asked this question before, but if you think about it as a business and a risk assessment and return on investment, the dealers are interested. They take pride in knowing that their product is the highest potency, most desirable drug that is out there. And unfortunately, because fentanyl belongs to the opioid group, there is an addiction. And so the more use, the more tolerant a person becomes. And then the traffickers are driving that tolerance to increase. And so now the traffickers are having to make a more potent fentanyl dosage so that people will buy it and purchase it. Again, not every dose kills. We now know that 6 out of 10 do, but obviously that's going to vary depending on the person's tolerance level. So I don't think the cartels are thinking about, will this kill somebody or will it not? I think they're thinking, how do we get the most potent product on the streets and make the highest level of profit, because they're greedy and they prey on the vulnerable and those with addiction. So I don't think they're thinking about that problem. I think we are. I don't think they are.
Mm. Next question. We had several teachers ask this. They said a lot of students are asking me about touching money on the ground that may have fentanyl on it and hearing that that could kill them. Is this a real threat or something manufactured on social media?
Yeah, so I'm not completely comfortable answering that question. I would defer to, and I know we don't have a chemist online, but on the ability to transfer, fentanyl powder, I think there are probably a lot of variables that go into that. But that's a question that I think we could refer to our chemist and maybe get back to some of the parents on a future webinar.
That's great. Thank you. Another question, is there a reason why, and they said this wasn't the first time they've noticed this, but it seems like the authentic pills always look less refined than the fentanyl-laced pills. This person says they've noticed they have a lot more scratches and imperfections in the lettering. Is that always the case?
I don't know that answer. I know that the cartels do whatever they can to make the fentanyl fake pills look as legitimate as they possibly can. But I don't know the reason behind the authentic pills maybe appearing, scuffed or less perfect, I guess would be the case. I just know that the cartels go to every imaginable step that they can to trick us into thinking that they are legitimate pills.
This is a very important one. What age would you suggest having this conversation first with our kiddos? This person says she has a 4th grader, and is it time?
Yeah, so I think, and I'll let Michelle help me with this one, but I think that's every parent's personal choice and every caregiver's personal choice. However, I know what's being taught in my school district, and I think it's appropriate. I have a 5th grader who also happens to be female, and I think it's fully appropriate to be talking to her about the risk of fentanyl. So again, I think that's every parent's personal choice. But when you look at some of the other things that are being taught in 4th and 5th grade, I think, fake fentanyl pills that could cost someone their life is equally as important. Michelle?
Yeah, I think we would support going as early as all the personal choice as well, but going as early as you think you can. And the message can be as simple as don't ever take a pill unless I'm giving it to you, or you're with your school nurse. Just keep it that simple so that they understand, like, don't ever take a pill from a friend, don't take a pill from anyone except for me and maybe the school nurse if I've recommended that. And that conversation could happen pretty early.
Yeah, that's good. Are social media companies or other web-based companies working with the DEA to help crack down on this illegal activity?
So again, I'll refer to our community outreach. I am in our special operations division and do a lot of I'm on the operational investigative side. So the interaction that our DEA headquarters has with social media companies and the efforts that they are doing with them, I would have to refer to our community outreach program.
Yeah, I know as a concerned citizen, there's direct avenues you can go and report to the DEA on specific platforms that activity is happening. So the more of us that are doing that, the better, like making sure that those things are reported so that the the DEA can see where things are popping.
Mm.
Different than the question itself, but I'm just saying there are things that we can do as citizens that help get accurate information and tracking possibilities out there.
Yeah, it's great. I love that. This is less of a question, but somebody wrote in, maybe teaching kids about the Good Samaritan law may help them feel more comfortable reaching out without fear of getting in trouble. Is that something that you've talked about or experienced
I can
before?
take that one, Wendy. Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And that was the underlying message that we kind of had in mind the whole entire time is for a teen to know that they can act and take care of someone who might have made a mistake and not be in trouble. And they can do that by staying with them, calling for help, and then letting a parent know, about the mistake. That Good Samaritan and also the parental support um, is is big. And that's what I was trying to get at in the beginning when I said talking to your teen and your child like beyond themselves. So yeah, this is mostly about you because I'm your parent, but I also want you to be the one that's getting your friends back and watching out in the crowd. If you see someone struggling, you can be the Good Samaritan and say something, do something.
Mm.
I mean, this problem is huge. No one factor of us can take it on. It's got to be everyone. DEA, parents, police, policymakers. This is massive. 100,000 people are dying every year. I mean,
Yeah. Another question is there a minimum age to be able to purchase and administer Narcan?
that is an awesome question. I'm not sure, but I'll definitely find out.
With that,
Yeah, I don't know that.
uh,
I don't know that answer either.
okay. Um, and with that, do you know the shelf life of Narcan? If we purchase it, is there a time where it expires and then becomes dangerous?
So yes, there is an expiration date. Um, this is me speaking as a parent. So I have heard that if you're in law enforcement, you may not be able to administer an expired Narcan. Um, but I've also heard from a professional that giving an expired, if that's all you have available, it wouldn't hurt someone. It may not help as much as we need it to. So I'm going off just as a parent there saying, yes, there is an expiration date, and if that's all you have available, you might go for it. I think I would if I didn't have anything else available.
Mm. Next question is, it says, my child's friends are buying vape pods off of the street. Could those be contaminated with fentanyl?
I would I would say yes, they could be, and I would encourage your child to discourage his or her friends. Um, Again, there's no control over what is in um, the vape and what is not in the vape, and I think it's the benefit of doing the vape or vaping does not outweigh the risk. And I think that's a very, very risky purchase and shouldn't be done.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Awesome. We did just get a response from somebody that's watching live that works at a poison center, and she said, to her
Awesome.
knowledge, there is no minimum age requirement um, to administer naloxone.
Great.
It's great to know.
Thank you for that, ma'am.
Another person just simply says, what are your thoughts on fentanyl test strips?
For the public or for law enforcement, I guess would be the question in
I,
differentiating. I think it's important to have, trained. I'm sorry, go ahead, Michelle.
Sorry. I'm probably not up on that enough to really say. I'm happy to look into it though.
Yeah, and I think from the law enforcement perspective, it's obviously we have chemists and we have dedicated laboratory experts that are testing fentanyl in a controlled environment and taking the safety precautions and measures. So I would not encourage, I wouldn't encourage a parent to take that on themselves because you could end up being inadvertently exposed. So I would say if you suspect that you have the presence of fentanyl, whether it's the dollar bill that's on the street and you don't know, or it's a fake prescription pill at your house and you don't know if it's real or not real, that you call 911 and have a trained professional come and with the proper handling and procedure confiscate that item and take it to a lab to be tested. I don't think that a parent or a caregiver should be testing fentanyl on their own.
Mm.
I mean, I did read too that it's the only part that I can contribute to that or add in addition to that is we know that like the fentanyl is not evenly dosed it's not carefully measured, it's not evenly dosed. And so I've read that even if you did try and test, you test like a part of a pill or something, it could be in the other half of the pill. It's not evenly distributed. There's no rhyme or reason. So I would think it would be risky.
Great point, Michelle.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. I am also seeing here several people that work in the school system saying that they have been able to trace some fentanyl scares back to some street vape pods. So I just wanted to let you all know that. And thank you. You guys, this is an active bunch. I really appreciate all the participation here. It's awesome.
That's great.
Let's see. We have one question about rainbow fentanyl. It says, with drug dealers trying to make the pills look so legitimate, why the mind shift to then make them look like candy?
Yeah, so I think you're right. I mean, they are trying to make them look legitimate to discreetly trick people into taking them. But then the rainbow fentanyl pills is also a marketing ploy, right? There are fake pills that people unintentionally take because they think they are legitimate pills like Oxy or Xanax. And then there are people that are buying fentanyl pills and know they're fentanyl pills that are selling them to unfortunately to addicts and to customers. And so this is a marketing ploy to kind of set themselves away from maybe someone else. This is my opinion. I do think that they are marketing to the kids when they are doing this to make it colorful and seem appealing and look like candy. And again, 3 out of 3 of my kids all said that's what it looks like.
Mm.
Well, and we do know too, it's just more likely that a really young kid would get a hold of something like that and accidentally ingest it. And we're seeing reports of that.
Correct.
Another question is, can you give too much fentanyl? Or I'm sorry, can you give too much Narcan?
I've heard give a dose. So when I was trained, give a dose, wait just a little bit if it doesn't seem like it's working to give a second dose. And they actually, I was given a double dose, a box when I received it. So I'm definitely not the expert on that, but what I took away from my training is give it, wait a little bit, give another, and you're not going to give them to, it's not going to hurt them. It's only going to help. But the other important thing is once you give it, don't leave someone alone ever because it's going to wear off quickly. You've got to have that EMS backup. So if you have one dose, give it and then see if you can get somebody on site with another. The reason for the double doses even needed right now is how strong the fentanyl is. It's so strong.
We're getting a lot of feedback on that question, and Michelle, they're all backing you up, saying you cannot give too much, and exactly like you said, give a dose and wait about 2 minutes is what I'm seeing a lot of, and then give another dose if needed. So some are saying it can take up to 4 doses these days, and it used to only take 2.
Wow.
Is there a centralized website where we can go and see how fentanyl is affecting each of our different communities?
There is, by Googling like the harm reduction efforts in your state, and also SAMHSA has awesome maps and locators and information that you can get to at your fingertips. So if you join us for the community opioid presentation, you'll dig deep into that with us. But in the meantime, you could go look at the SAMHSA website and start looking around a little bit.
That's great. Very similar to that, where can we find Narcan training in our communities?
So I would reach out to your health departments, your drug-free coalitions, your pharmacists first.
Sorry, you guys are an active bunch. I'm trying to find, there's lots of new things coming in. Somebody gave another website, opioidmisusetool.norc.org.
Perfect.
Opioidmisusetool.norc.org. And somebody else is saying the local police departments will always assist with training if asked. So really good stuff, guys.
So I meant to say earlier too, we also have Operation Parent office in Indiana. And our colleague Carol that works there was saying that in Indiana, some of the hospitals have vending machines with naloxone in it. So that might be something to ask around about as well.
A lot of questions about the breath of life, like is it dangerous to give mouth to mouth when somebody has overdosed on fentanyl?
So I think, obviously a medical professional could answer this probably better than Michelle and I, but I do think there is a risk of exposure if there is fentanyl powder or fentanyl on the person that you're giving mouth to mouth. So I would just keep in
Mhm.
mind that you're only as useful as you can be if you're there to help, and that you are not also compromised in trying to help someone else. So if you don't know, hopefully you'll have some form of naloxone or get medical treatment as to not expose both of you.
Mm.
I know you can use like the shields, like if you're trained in CPR, you might also have like a shield that you could put over their mouth. And they train in CPR too, that sometimes you could use a t-shirt, but all those are, I agree with what Wendy's saying about not putting yourself at risk. But if it's your loved one and you're going to do what you need to do to help them, then those are some options, as well as just remembering checking out the Zimhai product. Now, we were just introduced to that, but that is an EpiPen. So I know that it's different than the mouth-to-mouth question, but I was just thinking with one of the types of naloxone, you have to get right up in the face to get that in there. So, just remembering, like, there's some shields that you could maybe use to help with that, because the person may have also vomited, so you need to be careful with that.
Mhm.
Um, and then, so there might be some ways that you could protect yourself with the mouth-to-mouth thing if it's definitely a concern, which it should be. And to think about checking out Zimhai and the EpiPen method of distributing that drug.
Yes. We also have several medical professionals commenting back that naloxone comes with a mouthpiece or a mouth guard, and only do mouth to mouth if you have that. Several people have said that.
Mhm.
Um, we're also hearing a lot of endoverdose.net is a way to get online training, for online Narcan training. So another good resource.
That's awesome.
If I could just comment while you're reading some of the questions, I think I'm very happy to get the questions and see this much participation. I think it has achieved one of the goals that Michelle and I had, which is, this is a global national problem, and it's nice to see, medical professionals, educators, prevention specialists, law enforcement, community supporters, coaches, parents, everybody unite together on this call and try to help each other come up with solutions, and say, it's to the point. If I don't have the answer, maybe you do.
Exactly. It's going to take us all of us.
Why are we not pulling all of this together in a unified voice? Because it really is against the cartels, right? And I love that so many people are willing to, put their fist up and arm themselves with information and and education and willingness to fight back to protect our kids. So thank you all for the questions. It's very helpful to me on this side of the fence, on the law enforcement side also.
Mm. And just a reminder to everybody, you will receive a recording of this presentation. I'm getting a lot of those, and also just a ton of thank yous to you, Wendy, a ton. So thanks again.
Absolutely.
Let's see, I think, yeah, and someone else kind of backing you up, with this being seeming like a newly emerging problem. Not every community is going to have the resources of other communities. So yeah, encouraging us all, let's band together and fight this, and help neighboring communities as well. So
That's excellent. I think we've accomplished our mission to get a bunch of people together and learn about all the resources and the various things that people are doing to fight against fentanyl and make a difference. I know it's a really big, tough problem, and Wendy, you have a lot of really hard days working on this for us, but I feel hopeful that we have learned some things today, and obviously we've all learned some new resources, and we keep learning more every day that we can keep up the good fight against this and save more lives.
Thank you for having me, Michelle, and thank you all for allowing me to participate and share with you my experience both as a parent and a law enforcement officer.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to work with you, Wendy. Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you on our next webinar.